All right, let's get started in chapter 10. So I'm going to do this in two videos. So page 1 of these notes will be 10.1, and then I'll have a separate video for 10.2. So we're getting into some statistics and how to show, how to find data, as well as how to display it. So this lesson is all about surveys and sampling. So first off, let's start with some definitions. A survey is a study of one or more characteristics of a group. Depending on what that group is, the entire group that we're representing is called a population. While a survey of an entire population is called a census, which is actually happening right now, a more manageable way to collect data is from something we like to call a sample. So the example I like to use when I do this is whether or not people like the school lunch. So ways in which we could sample our student body, so a little over 400 students. The first way we could sample them is something we like to call a random sample. In a random sample, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. All right, let's say we wanted to take that to the next step and create what we like to call a stratified random sample. So maybe we feel like it'd be better if we got samples from specific groups of people. So maybe we want to make sure our sample includes freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Or maybe we want it to include students and adults. So depending on what we're trying to find, a stratified random sample is still random. You still have an equal chance of being selected. However, before you do that, you divide the population up. So it could be by age, by class, some type of distinct group. And then you're selected at random. All right, our third sampling method is systematic. So again, maybe you want to make sure we get different varying groups. So we're going to use some type of rule to state who does or doesn't get chosen. So maybe we say we're going to survey everyone whose last name is from M through S in the alphabet. So we're going to use some type of rule to group the members in the population prior to selecting them. In this particular case, however, everyone that fits that rule is selected. All right, our fourth one. So let's say you're collecting a sample, and sometimes finding everyone can be tricky with these other methods. So you want that to be more convenient. So we're going to call this a convenience sample. And maybe you conduct your survey by asking those who sit with you at lunch, or asking those that have the same lunch as you. So you're making it convenient because literally the people you're surveying are coming to you. So it's going to be as easy as possible, easily accessible. Another one I like to think of is when you go to Sonic and you get receipts, and that you can like fill out a survey there. But the survey literally comes on the receipt, and it's not just Sonic that does that. A lot of places do. And I think it's a convenience because they're getting their information out because it's convenient because it can be printed on the receipt that you're going to get no matter what. However, with most surveys, we get to our last method, and we like to call it self-selected. So typically, we're not going to be like forced to do a survey, meaning we have the ability to choose ourselves if we want to do it. And a lot of places, if they really want your response, they'll give you a reward like Sonic. If I get a 99-cent large or a free large out of filling out a survey, that is something I might select to do myself because I'm getting something in return. So in a self-selected survey, the only people that are responding are the members of the population that select themselves to give the info. All right, so those are our 5 ways in which to sample a population. So let's actually kind of put these methods to work. Can we determine which sampling method was used? And before we determine that, we're even going to ask ourselves, what is the population that's being surveyed? Because that'll help us determine and narrow down which method is being used. So, employee safety. The owners of a company with several factories conduct a survey to determine whether employees are informed about safety regulations. At each factory, 50 employees are chosen at random to complete the survey. So first off, what is our population? And a lot of times we get this, students will get this answer wrong because they list the sampling. So they'll say it's 50 employees. Well, that's the sample. So if 50 employees are the sample, what larger population are they coming from? And in this particular case, that population is all factory workers. So however many, it says they have several factories, so however many factories that is, employees right here. This is referring to all factory workers. So now let's analyze the way in which they sampled. They took 50 employees. Oopsie, wrong thing. 50 employees. And they took them from each factory. So they've been chosen at random. However, they were broken into distinct groups first by which factory they work at. So this is an example of stratified random. All right, so now let's switch it up a bit just to test our abilities. Let's say instead of picking 50 employees from each factory, they decide to pick every employee whose last name begins with M. Hopefully, that leads you to systematic, because they used a rule to determine who would be chosen. All right. So that's kind of your way of looking through, determining a population, and then verifying which method was used. Now, with all methods, technically you had to be self-selected. I guess if you worked for a company, they might say, hey, it's part of your job, so you're not going to feel so much like you have a choice. But in a lot of surveys, you do. So while self-selected can be used, if it's not obviously self-selected, you should be looking at your other 4. But you'll notice on the answer key for the homework, there's a couple options depending on which example it is. All right, this last piece is all about when you're sampling, determining if there's bias within your sample. So a sample chosen for a survey should represent a population. We consider it bias a bias sample if a sample, there's going to be a few words in here. If it over or under represents a population. So let's say, for example, I want to know how many people at Baldwin High School love chess. So the population is our entire student body, but then I only go ask the chess kids, the people in the chess club. That would be biased because I am underrepresenting the population, because I'm only asking people specifically that obviously have an interest in what I'm sampling over. So here in example 2, we want to know if the story problem from example 1, so picking 50 employees from each factory to be surveyed about safety regulations, if we chose it to only being from one factory. So instead of each, we say, all right, we're going to pick 50 from one. Could that potentially result in a biased sample? Now, there's many reasons why this could be a yes, but I'm going to say yes for sure. Reasonings can vary. One could be that maybe where that one factory is located could affect how employees fill out the survey. Maybe the management at a specific factory is better at one than another, so they're better at making sure all their employees are up to date. So I would say, depending on, especially on how many factories this company has, it would be biased to only survey people from one factory and then state that all your employees are up to date on their safety regulations. That would be like saying the district of USD 348 is up to date on their safety regulations, but they only ask the high school teachers. So, all right, that is